Hey everyone, welcome. Today, we're diving into a really powerful and, let's be honest, often debated chapter of the Bible, Romans 13. This chapter really gets us thinking about our faith, our government, and how we should live with a kind of urgent holiness. So let's get right into it.
Right off the bat, the chapter makes us ask this big question. How should a person of faith actually view the government? Are they an obstacle to what we believe, or are they something else entirely? This is the core tension that the text just jumps right into.
So, here's our game plan for breaking this down. We're going to start with our duties to the state, and then we'll look at the purpose of government itself. From there, we'll shift gears to the main principle that drives everything, love, and we'll wrap it all up with an urgent call to live a holy life and some practical steps you can take today.
All right, let's jump into our first section. This really lays the groundwork for how a believer is supposed to relate to the governing authorities.
Wow! Notice how direct and universal that is? Every soul, no exceptions. And the reason why is pretty profound. All authority, ultimately, comes from God. This frames human government not as some kind of necessary evil, but actually as God's idea for bringing order to a messy, fallen world.
It's interesting. The original Greek word for be subject is hupotasasso. It's actually a military term. It doesn't mean being weak or a doormat. It means to voluntarily and intentionally place yourself in rank under a recognized leader. It's an active choice to recognize a God-ordained structure in our society.
So here's the bottom line. Because government is God's institution, resisting it isn't just a political thing, it's a spiritual one. According to this text, you're not just pushing back against a president or a prime minister, you're actually pushing back against the very ordinance of God.
And that resistance brings consequences. The text warns that those who resist will receive krima, which means judgment. And this has a double meaning. It refers to the real-world stuff like fines or jail time, but it also refers to divine judgment for disobeying God's established order.
So, if government is ordained by God, what's its job description? Why did God set it up this way? Let's explore that in this next section.
This verse really gives us the two sides of the same coin. The government is meant to be a minister of God, for good, helping create a society where good people can thrive, but it also has its other role, to punish evil, to be a revenger, to execute wrath on those who do wrong.
And check this out. The word used here for minister is diakonos. It's the exact same root word we get for a deacon in a church. This paints a picture of the state as a servant meant to carry out God's purposes for justice and order in the world.
Now, when the text says the government doesn't bear the sword in vain, that's a really powerful symbol. In the Roman world, the sword represented the state's authority to use deadly force. This passage is saying that authority is legitimate, that the government is God's delegated agent for carrying out justice here on earth.
So, this brings us to the two big reasons for our obedience. On the one hand, we obey for wrath, which is just the practical reason, right? To avoid getting in trouble. But the higher and way more important motivation is to obey for conscience sake. This means our submission becomes an act of worship, honoring God by honoring the structures He's put in place.
Okay, now the chapter makes a really crucial pivot. It moves from our external civic duties to the one, single, internal principle that is the foundation for the entire Christian life.
So you pay your taxes, you show respect to everyone. Are you all paid up? Well, the text says, not quite. There's one debt that we can never, ever fully repay.
And there it is. Our one ongoing perpetual debt is simply to love one another. The logic here is so powerful. If you truly love someone, you've already fulfilled the law, because love is the engine behind all of God's moral commands.
And we have to be super clear here. This isn't talking about some sentimental, fuzzy feeling. Biblical love, agape love, is an action. It's an active principle that worketh no ill to a neighbor. If you are actively seeking someone's good, you're just not going to steal from them or lie about them or hurt them. And in that way, love literally becomes the fulfillment of the law.
This all leads us to the final major section, which gives us the urgent why behind all of this. It answers the question, okay, but why live this way, right now?
It's like a spiritual alarm clock going off. The text calls us to awake out of sleep, to shake off any spiritual laziness. Why? Because our ultimate salvation, our final glorification, is getting closer every single day. The imagery is so vivid. The night of this dark, fallen world is almost over, and the day of Christ's glorious return is about to dawn. That should create a real sense of urgency in us.
So how do we get ready for that day? Well, it's a two-part process, like getting dressed in the morning. First, we cast off the works of darkness, like a set of dirty old clothes. Then, in their place, we put on the armor of light, getting ready for spiritual battle by clothing ourselves in things like righteousness and truth.
This lays it out for us, step by step. It all starts with the choice to wake up. Then it's this daily act of saying no to sin and yes to righteousness. And it all culminates in this ultimate command, to put on the Lord Jesus Christ. That means clothing ourselves in His very character, so that His life is the one people see when they look at us.
Okay, we've covered some really deep theology, so let's bring it all together and figure out what this looks like in our lives today.
So here are your big takeaways. First, be a model citizen. Pay your taxes, pray for your leaders, show respect. Second, make love your #1 motivation. Ask yourself every day, who can I show God's love to? Third, do a little spiritual self-assessment. Are you feeling a little drowsy? And finally, start each day by consciously making that choice to put on the Lord Jesus Christ.
And that leaves us with this final, challenging question. It's not just about knowing that time is short. It's about living like it. Does the urgency of Christ's return actually shape how you deal with the government, how you love your neighbor, and how you pursue a holy life? That's definitely something for all of us to think about.